Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Chalk and Change podcast. I'm Aman, and we have our friend Suraj with us. And today we are also joined by another friend of ours, Sunir. Uh, I would ask Sunir to introduce himself quickly. Sunir,
Hello,
over to you.
Dostam. Hello, Dostam. Good to talk to you.
Well, Sunir is a very, what should I say, not a man of the words, but he will speak up later in the podcast. And as you know, we discuss about education, its past, present, and the future. Our goal is to bring good conversations to you, give you insightful stories, and think about education together with you so that we can change education for the better, one conversation at a time.
Thanks, Aman, for that fantastic introduction. So, what's that one question that you would like us to discuss today in the podcast? Would you mind sharing that question with our listeners?
My doubt is it required for a
Yeah.
student to have external structures to be motivated to do their work? For example, in our school time, there was a lot of external, what should I say, reinforcement.
The whole system worked on external reinforcement. Yes.
Yes, but it was required because we were not interested in doing that work. We did not want to solve the problems of math. We did not want to learn those answers in social studies. So, if a student is doing something which they are interested in, is there a need for any accountability structure? Or we just need supporting structures? I am inclined towards that only supporting structures are required. Let's say I'm stuck at some place. So, I need someone who can help me out through that thing through discussion or maybe providing tools or anything else. So that is the question.
So, okay, considering underlying assumption that the student is definitely interested in whatever they are doing, then yes, we don't need to have any kind of accountability structure for their learning or for their growth. However, the point that Suni raised about need to be some structures to maintain, to ensure that whatever they are trying to do, that their actions do not infringe or violate others' freedom to pursue their
That
own.
is
So
that is
that
already
is gonna stay.
one
That
one principle
accountability.
we have already established.
Okay, so that's yeah.
That is already now we are thinking, is there a need for any other principle? And also, for example, distraction comes to my mind. Like, does a child get distracted by certain things which could prevent them from doing what they want to do? So do we need to manage around distractions, or is it you only get distracted when you are not really enjoying the work
Yep.
you are doing? So it feels like the answer should be, yeah, if you're doing something of your interest, there you will not be distracted. You do not need external reinforcement. But I don't have any evidence or anything to back it because we have not experienced it.
My mind is going into the distractions are going to be there. The child is growing, child is learning new things. There is going to be distraction. Now the point comes is how much level of interference are you okay with in child's life? Hey, okay, he's distracted for 2 days. Let me intervene. Or it's been 2 months. He is not performing at par. Let me intervene. Or it's been 2 years. Let me intervene. Like how much gap can you give a child before you decide let me intervene?
Fair point. But I'm still thinking, is it even possible to be distracted for 2 days, 1 week if you are working on something of your own interest?
Yeah, I think it's totally acceptable.
Acceptable it
Acceptable
is,
or
but is it possible?
acceptable? It is possible. Yeah, it's possible even years. If I take my example, it's possible even years that you get distracted so much that you're not able to focus and you're still trying to get your shit together.
But
Now the
you are
question
thinking
comes
as
in.
an adult. Let's say
Adult, you are already a product of a system. Your formatory years have gone through a system that we are not talking about. So I think you yourself have to give yourself a little bit of that buffer or benefit of doubt that I have gone through that system. So it's not going to be completely aligned with the system that we are talking or discussing about. So that's
and
okay.
that is the question.
Yeah.
That is the question, that if someone has not passed through a system like ours, where our own interests were not really allowed to be pursued, if someone does not pass through that system, then will they be distracted if they are working on something of their own interest? If, like, a 6-year-old kid or an 8-year-old kid, they have they are interested in doing something and the school allows them that space, that yes, you can work on this, you create your own plan, that this is what I will do, you guide them to kind of structure it in a way that it becomes a learning experience, guided by their interest, then will they be distracted that you see, okay, the work has not come. It has been 2 days. They were supposed to maybe do something in there was a deliverable in a technical sense, but they have not completed it. So I
I
don't
think
know.
everyone will be distracted here, right? That's my opinion. And it's very not natural. Your life is not single interest. Oh, I'm very interested in music. I'm
Hmm.
also interested in my parents. I'm also interested in my what's going on in my brother's life. I'm also interested in what's going in my girlfriend or to be girlfriend's life. So
Hmm.
many things going on in someone's life.
So how do you are saying basically it might be a problem of time management. Is that what you're saying? Or prioritization?
So many things: prioritization, time management, getting your emotional maturity, getting other things right. So my
Hmm.
that thing I think is very natural. A child will be distracted. That for me, I take it very naturally. The child is going to be distracted. For me, the question comes is when will you intervene? Now my question comes is after working in edtech, because that was my research topic was self-regulated learning. My whole theory was that a child should be facilitated to regulate his learning by self. That's
Hmm.
what I focused on. That everything should be self-regulated. So my focus was give him computer feedback. The computer is giving you feedback that you are deviating from your learning, you're
Hmm.
getting distracted. So my question comes is when should the intervention should be there. Okay, this is the computer intervention. Now the time has come for human intervention, because anyway
Hmm.
any person is going to be distracted, child or adult.
So then there needs to be another expectation in terms of student accountability. So for one expectation we have already established in terms of harm and abuse, then I think what you are saying requires another expectation from the students. What could it be? You complete your work in time is a very raw kind of expectation, which or what else?
You mean my like student outcome?
To determine, for example, when should we intervene, you will need to know the parameter, right? What parameter are we is it the duration of work? Let's say the work was supposed to be completed in 4 days, but it has not been completed in 4 days, then you have that x amount of threshold when you intervene. So then our expectation would be that students
Hmm.
should complete their work. Students should will decide their own timelines for their work, and then they need to complete it in that timeline.
I think so. That's I think this topic which we are discussing comes under the purview of student assessment.
No, 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 not
What is
really.
the assessment?
Not really. Even generally, how you are in school.
This specific accountability comes under like what
This
you're
comes
talking
under
about. Learning is that's kind of
your
assessing. Maybe not assessed by a teacher, but assessing yourself.
this specific topic, yeah. But student
Like,
accountability is not for just assessment. Generally, how you are in school is also that is where the student
but
accountability is.
philosophically, it will come with that these are the goals you are setting up for the student. These goals can be democratic, or it can be set by you, or by from a curriculum designer. That these are the goals that the student should be achieving. All the goals, mental, academic,
Hmm.
emotional goals. These are the goals student will be achieving. These are the ways you will be assessing is the student achieving or not. And I think related to that is student accountability. Like, okay, if these goals are not getting achieved, is the
Yeah.
student accountable? Who is accountable? Is the teacher accountable? Who else is accountable? Then you start putting in interventions. Okay, the accountability is not getting done. Should the machine intervene? Should AI intervene? Or should I intervene? That's how I am approaching it.
And I am saying that the goals that you mentioned, I want to define those broad goals as well. So some of those goals or expectations would be academic, which can be dependent on how you are teaching, what you are teaching in the school. But some of them will be behavioral in nature. For example, our first one was very behavioral in nature, that students cannot inflict harm on themselves or each other. So similarly, this one where we are saying that student is work, let's say the school is structured in a way that students are able to follow their interests. Now to manage their distractions, what will be the expectation? What will be the goal? Or you can say, will it be that you complete your time work in the time provided or decided by you, or we are thinking of something else? Because for me, the expectation that is coming out of this discussion is this: there is some time allocated to do something, and if the student is not doing it in that amount of time, then there is an expectation breach.
As I said, I propose for self-regulated learning. So
Mm.
in self-regulated learning, you help them see
You nudge
what
them.
you are seeing.
You kind of
Yeah,
nudge them,
you guide them, you nudge them, and you nudge them on the parameters which you are seeing.
right?
You are seeing some parameters. Okay, student is not achieving this, or student is not following this, or student is breaching this. Let them see it through a dashboard, through a mail, whatever your way is. You let them see it. Let them self-regulate it. That is what my personal opinion is. When the self-regulation comes to a halt, now the question will be, when is the time when you decide, okay, self-regulation is not helping,
Yes, that is the
human
next.
intervention is needed.
Mm.
At least for adult learners, this is for at least high school to college learners. Now when we
We are
talk about
discussing
primary
primary
school,
and middle school primarily. Let me rephrase it. Then what about primary and middle school?
okay, middle school is till 8th.
Like grade 6 or primary, grade 3, 4,
Primary
5.
is till fifth.
Will this change for them?
I'm a little hesitant to answer because I need to refresh my memory of the psychology. Is the psychology has developed that they can self-regulate? If they can't self-regulate, if they need an external regulating agent, that they needs to be an agent which regulates their learning, then the responsibility is on the shoulders of the external regulating agent. If I'm not aware of their education psychology, is a
Mm.
grade 5 learner can self-regulate their learning or not? If not, then it depends on you that you have to facilitate them or nudge them.
What do you mean by self-regulation?
Self regulation is that you regulate your learning yourself, you regulate your growth, your
But what is the
development,
meaning of
your
regulate
learning.
here? Is it
Fact.
like what is
Like you are not responsible for my growth, my regulation, my learning. I am myself responsible for my learning and my growth. And the teacher is just a facilitator who is just helping me self regulate my learning and my growth.
let me ask this way. What does a child who is able to self-regulate look like compared to a child who is not able to self-regulate? What differences will we see in these two children in terms of their action?
The major difference will be, are they able to define their self? If, for example, a student is able to define the self, that okay, this is me, and if I give them enough cues that you are not able to do this because of this,
Hmm.
can they imagine themselves doing these and or not able to do these because of these things, and can course correct themselves? So the mean what it means is their idea of self is developed enough that they can course correct themselves. They just need external cues, they just need external nudges to course correct themselves. They can self regulate. So I think this becomes a question of education psychology where we need one or two papers to cite, or education or development psychology. The idea of self starts developing in third grade or fifth grade or eighth grade. Then we can say, okay,
But
before eighth grade, you can't use the theories of self regulation.
no, I'm not saying we need to go into the theory. What I'm trying to understand is visibly how will decide that this student can self-regulate, this student cannot self-regulate.
And you
The
will need theories for that. You will need development
but
education
so
theories
but
for that.
you'll need to, let's say there are 30 children in a classroom. Now, are we assuming that yes, if a child has crossed a certain age, then all of them can self-regulate? Is that how we are approaching this, that okay, beyond a certain age every child is able to self regulate, so we assume that all these children are able to self regulate, and then we have certain expectations that if the child is doing these 3 4 things, then yes, he is able to exercise self regulation and he is exercising also? Or is
No,
it
it
that
can
it is not it is not an age defined assumption? We can do something, maybe a screening or an assessment, or an observation based thing, and then categorize students into, okay, these children are able to self regulate, these children are not able to self regulate. Which one is that?
again a theoretical question. Again a psychological theoretical question. Then is there a questionnaire from which you can decide that which kid is able to self-regulate and which is not? But my guess is it's gonna be an age defined, but it's a psychological theory, so it will have plus minus 2 3 years gap. It's not going to be rigid. That okay, as soon as you cross 18 years, you are, you hit puberty. But it's not very strict. It has
Yeah,
plus minus 2 3 years gap.
I would also think
But
so, that everyone will not have the capacity to self regulate after a certain age. There will be
yes,
something else, right?
but they'll give you an idea. They will give you the okay. If you are till fifth grade, majority of them will not be able to self-regulate, and you will be making your policies depending on the majority of them. Like after eighth grade, they will say majority of them can self-regulate. So your policies, your curriculum will be depending on the majority. Or you
But
can make the
still,
questionnaire also.
what I'm still not able to understand is, what does self-regulate mean? Is it that I'm able to do my work on my own?
Right. Exactly. If I give you enough cues about yourself, you can course correct yourself. You have a sense of self that this is me. If someone helps me realize, okay, this is where I'm not going good, or this is where I'm faltering. These cues are enough for me to self-regulate if I'm
Yeah, but
motivated enough.
so then we are saying that for the student accountability, we need to think about this part. Like, how do we check if a student is able to do their work on their own or not?
So, from what I understood from discussions that you both did, is firstly, like up till a certain age, plus minus 2 years, it has to be observed and checked by someone, like a teacher, an external person who is observing and tracking that kid's growth, learning, progress, and course correcting them or supporting or nudging them in the right direction. And after a certain age, it can be self regulated, like Sunil shared. So it can be like a mix of both. Like till certain age, it's externally imposed or regulated, and then after that, it's self-regulated. So for another thing, I was just thinking around accountability. So we discussed like certain behavioral accountability structures that we need to put in place, and then accountability structures for the learning of the students. Are there any other accountability structures that we need to think of? Or
Now, so right now we have been thinking from this lens wherein what is essential, like what is essential to have. Another way to think about it could be, what do we want them to learn? So if we think that children should learn some things which will be helpful for them in their adult life, then what sort of things do they need to learn in the school, which will then turn into the expectations and accountability structures?
ChatGPT says that self-regulation starts developing at 11 plus years. Like it starts developing when you're infant, but a refined self-regulation becomes more refined at 11 plus years.
Hmm. So middle school, grade 6.
Middle school, yes. So primary school, you don't have self-regulation. Then you need external structures.
So we need to have some expectation in terms of students completing their work in time. And then I was thinking maybe we can have this expectation for primary, that student needs to complete their work in the assigned time. But if they are not able to do so, they proactively reach out for support.
so, yeah, I think that might help build idea of self pretty soon, or they'll be able to self-regulate faster or sooner rather than waiting till 11 or 12.
Yeah, and then coming back to the question I asked. So these are things which we feel are essential in terms of student expectations. If we want them to learn something which will be helpful for them in life, should we also have some accountability structures and expectations towards those? For example, if we want them to be able to take their own decisions once they reach high school, then there has to be some amount of learning which allows them to take those decisions. Or if we want them to become responsible parts of the society when they graduate, then are there certain things which we need to start on in the school which would turn into student accountability structures? Like,
Yeah.
what comes first? That's the question, right? Is it what should the students be doing in the school, and then that kind of determines what will be the curriculum, what will be the pedagogical approach? Because the purpose of pedagogical approach and curriculum is student learning, right? So first we'll need to define student learning and the student accountability structures, right? Then the curriculum will come. So you are saying when the curriculum will decide what the students will be accountable for, that seems opposite to me.
So when I said pedagogy, I said the broad themes, like it's the project based learning, or is it inquiry based, or is it more like free play based? And in that curriculum, things are inbuilt in such a way that
Yeah, but I'm saying that to make
will
that decision, which curriculum will you choose, these questions need to be answered first. That's how you will decide which curriculum will you want to take.
I see. Yeah, because I was thinking, okay, we are going with, let's say, Reggio Emilia, pedagogy approach, and then seeing, okay, the kids are learning through free play and they're developing their interests, going into projects. So when they're following this, they are developing, those things: decision making, troubleshooting, problem solving, critical thinking.
Each curriculum will definitely
Yeah.
have certain things which will be built on, but I'm saying if we are thinking of education, what these need to be thought of first. So, especially in a context of a school, let's say if we are planning to build a school, then as a school, these decisions need to be made first, and then you explore, okay, what are the curriculums though that could support this kind of a learning, this kind of an environment. Because otherwise, you are otherwise we are going in the wrong direction. That you choose the curriculum, then you figure out what does that curriculum uh, teach children academically and in terms of their behavior and other aspects, and then you
Hold on.
see this is not something I want the children to learn.
So, isn't that coming from your vision and the mission? And if you have said that, okay, I want to build a school where students, if when students graduate, they should have problem solving skills and this and that.
Yes,
And based on that,
definitely.
you have chosen at least three, four approaches that will definitely get used, either one or two or a mix or whatever.
Definitely,
And then
it
this
will come from that.
accountability, or maybe you can clarify that question a little further when you said, what accountability structures do we need to ensure that the kids have learned decision making skills, troubleshooting skills, and all that? Because I was thinking if you have chosen even three, four curriculums, or if it's going to mix or one, whatever, and you are also ensuring implementing those structures for self regulating kids' learning,
Mhm.
then those things will be the outcome of that whole learning process. You have incorporated everything. Like, what's missing?
You are right. So that will come from the mission and the vision of the school. And I think what we have discussed previously in terms of my mission statement, freely expressing their own ideas is one thing. Then decision making was also another thing. Like children should be able to practice taking decisions and then seeing the consequences of these decisions. So yeah, it is coming from that context only, that what should the child learn. So you're right. If you don't have the mission statement, you will not be able to kind of think on those lines. Okay, let's move to teacher accountability then. Or if you guys have anything else on the student accountability, we can discuss.
I think another thing that I do want to bring in, which might get covered under behavioral accountability structures, is general conduct in the society. Like, you cannot use your skills to, like, not just harm anyone inside the school but also outside. Like, there are so many things that school that you won't experience in school, or maybe school can teach those things for sure. So those may be like social accountability structures that's already covered under behavioral, or not. Like, you're not supposed to go and kick someone like elder, or you're supposed to, let's say, help old people, help them cross the road or do whatever, like all those kind of things. Are those covered? Are we
But how will you
going?
keep them accountable to this in school?
Like, my goal is,
If
I mean, regardless of whatever they learn, they become a
mm,
scientist, whatever, these things should also be there in there as a part of this learning in the school. Is
mm,
it going to be a component of the mission, or do we
it
need
should
an
be a part of
accountability
the
structure for
learning,
that?
but we can't keep this as an expectation, right? Because you can't hold them accountable for this in school.
Like, basically, I'm talking about making them good
Good
citizens,
decisions, yeah.
good human beings, not just problem solving or smart.
Thinking that this will be a part of the curriculum in a way,
Yeah.
student accountability structures, because student accountability structures will be responsible for what they can do or learn in school.
Hmm.
But yeah, this will definitely be a part of the curriculum, that you
Correct.
instill those values essentially in the children, that they become good citizens or good human beings.
Yes, making students good human beings and good citizens. I think that should be the ultimate goal of all the learning or education institutions across the world. And on that note, let's wrap up our episode today. Thank you, Sunir and Aman, for sharing your insights around student accountability structures. And we hope our listeners enjoyed listening to this conversation. Thank you again for listening. We'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you.